This is Phil Timon with the philtimon.co.uk podcast with my co-host, thin, attractive wife, Jess.
Hello.
She is my wife, and she's very thin and attractive. Doubly so considering that she gave birth 13 days ago,
Yep.
as of this recording, to baby Lily, third child. And
Mhm.
she's back in the gym, which we're not going to talk about at all because I don't work with women in the post partum period,
Mhm.
or indeed the pre-partum period. Just no interest in doing that whatsoever. So I'm not going to talk about that. But what we are going to talk about is something that is a real problem for a lot of guys and indeed some women.
Mhm.
And that problem is that they train too much, or specifically they lift too much.
Yep.
You go to the gym and you see a sea of faces. Most of those faces are miserable. And they're dragging their feet, wander around the gym like, is it Romero or Tarantino? I don't know. The film, the Dawn of the Dead guy.
I've not seen Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, well, Dawn of the Dead. I think it's not. No, it's not Tarantino. It's Romero. Romero zombies. Well, they're the
Mhm.
really slow ones.
Yeah.
Not the 28 days later ones that are going to run around and like chase you and break through windows and stuff. Like the slow mobbing zombies that surround shopping centers and stuff. Yeah, those ones. That's what people look like. And I know why that is. It's because they're training too much. They're lifting too much. They're going to the gym too often. 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
Completely, completely unnecessary. And how do I know it's unnecessary? Well, the answer to that, rewind the clock to the silver era of bodybuilding, 1940s, 50s, before steroids exploded onto the scene. Yes, I know there's debate about whether or not certain figures from that period took gear because it was invented. My belief is that they didn't,
Mm.
but maybe that's a topic for another podcast. Make a note of that, Jess. That's a topic for another podcast. But for now, what we need to focus on is the fact that these guys seldom trained, lifted more than 3 days per week. It was very unusual to see people lifting more than 3 days a week back then. They did do it, knocking around, you'll see articles talking about what they call delineation routines, which they use to prepare for bodybuilding competitions. There you might see 4 or 5 or 6 day a week training. Certain figures back then, minority of them advocated perhaps more frequent training with the early forms of what we would now call a bro split or a body part split. But the vast majority of bodybuilders, the vast majority of recreational lifters, indeed the vast majority of athletes, those few athletes that did lift, because it wasn't very common back then because of a fear of becoming muscle bound, was 3 days a week full body routines.
Mhm.
That was what was done. And I don't know about you, but I think that they all looked a lot fitter, stronger, and healthier than your average gym rat these days. And I'm not just talking about the bodybuilders here, because obviously the bodybuilder's going to look better than your average gym rat. But if you see pictures of them training, so photographs in magazines, the look of the average guy down the gym back then was just so much better shape than what you see now.
It's that vitality almost, isn't it?
Vitality, that's a good word.
Mm.
Yeah, they look vital, healthy, and vital. And that's because they were sufficiently rested and also sufficiently engaged with what they were doing. Because I think that when you're going 4 or more days per week, you're lifting 4 or more days per week, very quickly you lose interest. Now, a lot of people listening to this are probably either relatively new to training or haven't ever stuck it out for more than kind of a couple of years without falling off the wagon. And they'll think to me, oh, Phil, what you're saying, 4 days a week, I don't get bored. I love going to the gym. I find it really interesting. Well, try sitting in my position 15 years, week in, week out, without fail, plan rest weeks aside. It's damn boring. It's damn boring. And I don't think I could sustain the kind of progress that I'm making with my current regime if I was lifting 4 days a week. In fact, I know I wouldn't. I know exactly what would happen because it's happened before. I would drift from the exercises that I know I should be doing, squatting, pressing, pulling, predominantly with a barbell, and start doing stupid stuff like, I don't know, Zerka squats from the floor and trying to learn a two hands anyhow because I'm
Anything
I'm
to
just
make it a bit more interesting.
well exactly because it's damn boring, right? And then we know what happens, don't we, Jess? Is that I start having to eat more
Hmm.
because to sustain the training, and then I start picking up little niggling injuries that I don't need to have, because I'm doing high risk activities versus low risk activities, and then I get fat, and I get bored of training, and I start bitching to you about it all the time, don't I?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that I struggle to find a reason why anyone would want to lift more than 3 days a week. I genuinely struggle. There are some edge cases. So, I don't know. So I was speaking to a guy this week actually. He came on he asked me to write him a little personal report, and he's got a very specific restriction. Can only lift for, I think he said 35 minutes total. Obviously, you need a little bit more than that if you're going to go down the low frequency route, 2 or 3 days per week route. So quite happy for someone like him to live 4 days a week, because the sessions are so short, it's pretty much impossible to get bored, and you've got so little time either side that you have to be focused. Otherwise, it's just a it's just a
There's
waste of
an
time.
imperative to get it done.
Well, it is, and yeah, and you can't get bored in half an hour. I defy anyone to get bored in half an hour. I mean, well, TikTok brain. It's a thing. If you've got TikTok brain, then obviously you can get bored in half an hour. Those people can't seem to get off TikTok in between their sets. Do you know, actually, Jess? Did I tell you this about 2 weeks ago? I actually saw a guy on TikTok whilst lifting. Did I tell you this?
No,
This is a true story. I'm not making this up for the purpose of the podcast. Genuinely, he was doing concentration curls, one arm dumbbell curls,
with phone in other hand.
phone in another hand, and
Yeah.
he was on TikTok while lifting. What do you reckon he looked like, Jess?
Stellar shape.
Oh, he was fat and out of shape, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Greasy and
There was a guy at the gym the other day
sticky.
who I wanted to use a piece of kit he was near and couldn't get his attention because he was on
Yeah.
TikTok
No,
or
but
some
this
video
guy was on TikTok while lifting.
in the middle of a set.
Yeah. So obviously, I think he would probably get bored in 35 minutes. But
Yeah.
but a normal person, a serious person, a functional human being, it's not 4 days a week with 35 minutes.
Mm.
Because especially when you consider your warm up and cool down, kind of say 7 minutes for that. So what's the maths? I'm not going to do it. So 35 minutes minus seven.
A 7 for warm up and 7 for cool down.
No, seven for both. Yeah.
28.
Yeah. So if you could 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get bored lifting for 28 minutes. There's not enough time to do stupid stuff in that. But yeah, anything more than that, when you see these guys on these bro splits with all these, that's another thing that happens is these redundant exercises. Redundant exercises. So you'll see someone doing like 3 different varieties of chest fly. So why are you doing that? Because you've got to fill the time, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the unenhanced body, shall we say, would struggle with a full body routine more than 3 times a week. I actually did once, which I was doing when I had nothing on in my life apart from earning loads of money working for a corporation and no girlfriend and stuff. I did actually do a 6 day a week full body program. That worked, but my entire life revolved around training at the time, so it's not something for serious people.
I was going to say, you either get bored or it becomes
Yeah,
unsustainable
yeah, yeah. And
with the
it's
rest of your life
well,
responsibilities.
my life was unsustainable, wasn't it? As soon as you become a serious person with a job that challenges you remotely, and you have family and kids and stuff, then going to the gym and lifting 6 days a week on a full body regime, nah, it's not going to work, is it? It's not going to work. So that's kind of why now I don't really teach more than 3 day a week training. That's kind of still very secrets to my 3 month program jobby. It's 2 days a week lifting, and then 2 days a week hard conditioning, and then walking every day without fail. And that works really well for people. That works really well
Mm.
for people. There's another guy, one of my Phil Time and Letters subscribers. He's a good guy. He's working really hard, and he's come back to me after repeatedly. Well, not come back to me, because you can't come back to me, because I blacklist people who leave Phil Time and Letter, because there are lots of reasons for that. And that's not the point I'm making. But he's come back to training, not come back to me. Repeatedly working hard, getting results, falling off the wagon, back to square one. And I've got him just 2 days a week, full body workouts, plus 2 hard cardio sessions and the walks. And he's told me that he's never been this consistent before in his life with his training. So absolutely works. And I think we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? We were talking about cooking and how Yeah, I'm really good at making poached eggs because I make them 6 days a week. Because you cook one day a week, don't you, at the
Yeah.
weekend? And I've done that for years. So I'm really good at making poached eggs. Whereas if I only cook breakfast once a week, it's only 52 times a year versus 300 and I think it was 313 times we worked out or something.
Something.
Yeah,
Mm.
if I only, I only do it 52 times a year. So obviously results are going to come a lot more slowly when you're only lifting 2 days a week versus three or four or five or six. But there's no point getting results if you can't hold on to them. That's my contention anyway.
Mhm.
That's my contention. And also, I think, well, you said to me this morning that I look a lot better now than I did when I was training more frequently. And I put that entirely down to the level of enthusiasm I'm able to dump into my sessions with the two just going twice a week.
Can I ask you a question?
You may.
So, I'm guessing that also the impact of lifting less makes doing cardio and your walking more sustainable, which just all feeds into a better all round health program.
Walking should always be sustainable. The lifting frequency shouldn't have any impact on one's ability to walk unless you're an utter failure of a human being, or you've got some suitably grave medical malady that like prevents you from walking. But in which case, why are you lifting? That kind of thing. But certainly the cardio you've raised a good point. Being able to do cardio because cardio does drop off. I find guys who lift there's generally two extremes, right? So you've got lifters who are typically coming into fitness fat and out of shape, and they choose lifting because it allows them to sit down a lot. It's the only form of exercise where you can legitimately spend half of the time that you're training sat down. And then if you're doing bench, you can spend the rest of it lying
Lying
down.
down.
Oh yeah, a load more of it lying down, for goodness sake. So it's an incredibly attractive form of exercise for fat people. Not to mention all the narratives around food and bulking up and stuff. Oh, the amount of guys you see on Dreamer Bulks. I remember speaking a few years ago to this guy, right? And he was probably he was about my height, so a man at 5'7", and he had easily a 40-inch waist. Easily a 40-inch waist. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna bulk up. I want to bulk up to 17 stone. I was like, fucking hell. Am I allowed to swear on Spotify or well, I just have? But anyway, you get people like that, and getting them to do cardio is really hard, and that's why they lift. On the other extreme, you have your runners, your thin guys, who getting them to bloody lift is a pain in the backside. Yeah, they want to do all their cardio because it's what they're good at. Ultimately, it's people gravitate to what they're good at. Because as a
Mm.
thin guy to do cardios, I don't know, I've never been a thin guy, but just thinking about it in terms of pure physics,
Yeah.
the impact on the joints from running, you're able to move faster, um, all that good stuff. It's we probably do quite well quite quickly from it. So actually bringing those two things into balance does require, you're right, less lifting to make space for the cardio for the fat guys, and then something achievable in terms of lifting. Because 2 days a week versus
Easy.
no days a week for the thinner guys, because they need to be doing it right. So if you say to a runner who's someone who's done a lot of running, like triathlon or something, oh, you're in addition to all this running training that you enjoy doing, which is actually very demanding even for a thin person, you also need to lift 4 days a week. They're not going to do it. They're going to be inconsistent with it, and then the way 4 day a week lifting programs tend to be split up, where they tend to involve either a movement split or a body part split. Stuff like legs don't typically legs and back don't get trained, or legs actually no, not legs and back. Actually, that's a lie. It's legs and shoulders that get neglected um, because sessions get dropped.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just like no, all you need to do is a simple full body workout that takes about 45 to 50 minutes twice a week. Even your lifting phobic runners will do that, and the fat guys will not have an excuse not to run, basically, if they're serious about getting into shape. Which, to be fair, only represents a minority of overweight people in my experience. I've found it much easier to work with the running types than I do with the overweight people, as a
Mm.
general rule. It's an observation, but that's another topic for another podcast. Write that down. Good, good. I think I've exhausted what I had to say today. I'll let you finish that note. This is raw and unedited. philtimon.co.uk podcast. Um, but no, I've nothing else. Jess, can you finish writing that note?
Yeah.
Cool.
Done.
Yeah, because I'm done for today. So yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Well, until next time, we'll see you adieu.